Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Elizabeth Estrada on the podcast. She's a WBFF pro. She's also a night nurse. She's also a published model. So she's basically a jack of all trades. She's coming to us all the way from Kansas City. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being on.
Oh, so happy. So happy to do this.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired and what motivated you to get in shape and adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
So I've always kind of worked out and been active. I used to actually teach Zumba classes.
So you're one of those people.
I used to be. I used to be.
Yeah.
But then once I got my job out here in Kansas City as a nurse, I met another girl who it was on her bucket list. She'd always wanted to do it, and I kind of drug my feet. I was like, okay, I'll go to training with you, but I don't think I'm going to get on stage. And well, I couldn't help myself. I'm super competitive just by I don't know, just by nature. And before I knew it, I was like really into it, and I ended up winning that show. And then I was like, I'm never going to do another one again. This is crazy. And then I met up with this coach who wanted to sponsor me for another show, and he introduced me to the WBFF, which is just another level. They just treat you so well, and the show is like you really get a lot of time on stage, and they just make you feel real glamorous and beautiful. So I started training with him, and I guess the rest is history. So that one girl who had it on her bucket list inspired me to go forward with it.
And that's awesome. And I always say, for everyone out there that doesn't understand the WBFF, I mean, it's basically like if you would think of almost like a beauty pageant, except the people are jacked that do it, basically.
Yes.
That's basically
Yes.
what it is. I mean, it's like the NPC has their own thing, but like the WBFF is a lot more like stylish and a lot more graceful, I'd say, than I mean, a lot of their poses aren't, as they're not, like bending over and everything like that, like the NPC does for that. So yeah, it's just if you're trying to picture what it is in your mind, it's like it's a beauty pageant with a lot of people that are in very good shape, basically. So and that's just so awesome. But when you were getting started, I always say, you know going into a new area like Kansas City where you'd always been in really you've been a Zumba instructor, but what really was there ever, other than that person, was there a certain moment where you just said like, hey, I really do need to get, find a different way on how to keep this lifestyle for me?
Yeah. Because it's really just all about diet. Like I thought that I ate healthy, but you just don't know until you like start to prep all of your food and like count it, measure it, weigh it. You just don't know. Like I thought I ate healthy, but there's a lot of hidden like sugars and fats and stuff that you just don't realize you're even eating.
I couldn't agree more. I have to say, for me, my biggest struggle is that since being a former baseball player, I still love sunflower seeds, and I know how bad they are. I look on the things, and it's so bad where it's one of those things where like I start a new job, and then all of a sudden I'd gained about 10 pounds like a couple of months into it, and I was like, oh, what's going on with
Mhm.
that? I had sunflower seeds almost every night. So, that kind of, that might be the big difference maker. So then I realized that, so I cut it down, and now things are fine now. But yeah, it's
Sugar is my kryptonite.
oh yeah. Well, and I always say, especially working nights like we do. I mean, she works nights a lot, a lot. She has a lot more of a hectic schedule than I do, but you do kind of have to supplement it every once in a while just to be able to get through it. But
Yeah.
so I always like to say, if you were to walk into the gym and there's 100 people in that gym, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape. Whether it comes down to their diet, whether it comes down to their nutrition. I mean, there's so many different things that add up to the overall package that people end up seeing. Was that a struggle for you when you finally decided to get into a bodybuilding show just to find out what worked best for your body? Because I always say, if you were to walk up to someone and say, like, what did you train for this body part? It looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time is not going to work as good for you.
Yes, that's true. Finding my own way was the hardest struggle, especially working nights. And I don't eat at the normal times people do. I don't sleep at the normal times. It's like, so when do I eat breakfast, lunch, dinner? When do I eat my snacks? And then walking into the gym, super intimidating. Like, it's a big confidence builder just to be like, you know what? I'm here for me and myself. This is what I have in mind. This is my goal. None of these other people matter right now. And you just have to go and do it. And I still have to give myself pep talks like when I go into gyms that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, it's honestly one of those things where you just have to just keep just that positive motivation in you. But how do you think that, having that background in being a Zumba instructor, do you have an extra little bit of extra confidence where you do see these new gyms and you're like, hey, I've had this backstory in it, or I've had this past experience in gyms where it has helped you with your confidence?
Mhm. You would think, but no, I mean, I still have that insecurity sometimes. So just because somebody looks all fit and buff or, does this or that, don't think that they don't have that insecurity as well.
That is one thing that I gotta say that I have learned from doing this podcast is that, it really doesn't matter how people, because we've had people that come on that are just like, like I tried to put on all this to like help with self-confidence and everything, but
Mhm.
if you don't make that mental adjustment along with the physical adjustment, it can be very hard for people to be able to get over that. And yeah, that's why I say, like even if you see someone who,
Mhm.
you can clearly tell is into Bible, that doesn't mean that they don't have their own insecurities or their own struggles
Right.
when it comes to working out. And that's one thing that's one of probably my top three things that I love to talk about on this, because so many people think that like, oh, these people got it made because they look so great or whatever. But it's like, just to maintain that and just to get to that though is such a struggle for so many people that
Oh,
people
yes.
just
Yes.
don't realize. But now one of my fun questions that I love to ask, because everyone's genetics are so differently, so it makes for an interesting answer. So everyone always has that one body part when they get started that really, really takes off, that they don't need to train as much. And then everyone always has that one body part that lags behind. They have to train to overdrive. I'll give you mine first. So, I mean, my back, I had jobs all throughout college where I was, like lifting stuff into trucks, doing all that. So my back is one of those things where I always say, I could train it once a month. And that's the one thing that looks like I could compete. So that's
Mhm.
my go-to, but for me, I'm 6'3", so my legs and my lower body are just shot to crap where, I mean, I have to train them twice a week, and even then, they do not, I mean, I have that pitcher's body where it's, like, just long and lengthy before I started working out, so even then, people still give me crap, and they're like, "Oh, when's the last time you trained legs? Like 2008 or something like that?" And then I'm just like,
But,
"No,
like being
yeah.
that tall, you're at a disadvantage.
Mhm.
It's so much harder to build muscle when they're that long. Like shorter
Thank
people
you.
have easier time to build because it's a shorter contraction. It builds so much faster.
Keep preaching. Yes, thank you. Yes, I see like some of these like 5'6" guys in the gym, and I'm like, oh my god. I mean, it's like, I mean, other than the fact that being 6'3" is like the perfect. I mean, it's there's so many
It's
benefits to
convenient.
it.
You've always got that top shelf.
Yeah, it's always got that top shelf. But yeah, but other than that, I was like, yeah, if I just had that short guy like muscle growth. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
So mine is my shoulders. Actually, like I don't have to do much for my shoulders. I hit them once a week and that's it. My dad had like a really big build. He was like 6'5" and pretty muscular. I'm only 5'3". Okay, so I'm short, but my mom is even shorter than me, and her shoulders are so small she can't even keep a purse strap on there. So she still wears shoulder pads from like 1985, but
Those classic '80s
that's
shoulder pads. Yeah.
But then like my legs and stuff, I just don't put on weight there. So for me to build like my quads and hamstrings and glutes, that's taken a lot of effort, like hitting it super hard, eating a ton. I eat all the time. People at work are always like, "So what are you eating now?"
Everything. Yeah.
Everything, everything. So shoulders solid, legs take a lot of work for me.
Yeah, that is one of the benefits, I should say, though, is if you do really go at it, and if you, even if you're not competing, well, especially if you're not competing, you can go and you can be a lot more fluctuating and a lot more convenient on your food choices. I mean, let's say, you can go and have fast food every once in a while, a little bit more than the normal person, which is something that I really enjoy about that, is this that. But also, I mean, you look in your bank account and you're like, oh crap, maybe I gotta stop eating so much, or I gotta like stop getting takeout so much, because yeah, that's happened to me where I look at my monthly statement, I'm like, oh, okay, might need to buy some more ramen noodles or something like that, and just stock up on it for a little while, because yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, it's great eating all the time, but if you're in a strap for cash, it's one thing that you gotta definitely consider. But one of the biggest missing stereotypes that I love to bust on this podcast, because I mean, it's gotten better the last 5 years because of Instagram, but there are still just so many women that have that fear where if they go into the gym and they touch one weight, they're gonna put on 50 pounds of muscle. I mean,
Oh my god, hands down, that was me,
yep,
100%.
no, yeah, that's why I always like to say, but it's just such a myth, because I always say, first of all, you'd become the biggest commodity of all time. You'd probably be like the first trillionaire, because everybody and their brother would want to buy whatever you were selling. The government would kidnap you, and they do like genetic studies on you, and they make sure that like your genes were passed on to like everyone else. So I know that you had that fear when you were getting started, and now that, I mean, hopefully you've cured yourself of that.
Yes.
When you hear that from other people, what is your main response? What do you like to tell them when you hear that?
Man, well, I show them before pictures and I say, "This is what I look like when I killed myself with cardio." I would do like an hour on the elliptical or the treadmill, or I mean, there's a time and place for cardio, but that was like 5 days a week for me, which is insane. You know, I don't even do that much in a month now. I just try to reiterate, you're going to feel a little, I think they just feel a little bulkier when they do start lifting because that muscle kind of starts to push the fat out. So there's that transition period. So you have to have that support group that's like, no, no, you have to trust in this process because I know it works. I've lived it. I've seen it. And you just kind of have to support them on the way. And then when it does start to melt away, they're like, oh my God, why haven't I been doing this my whole life?
I mean, I always like to tell my story. When I was in college and getting bigger and stronger, one of my really good friends, she came up to me and she said, Ryan, I see that you're making all these changes and getting, bigger. I want to go to the gym with you, but I'm just afraid that I'm going to get too bulky. And then I told her, I said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to like clubs, when we go out to get something to eat, weighs more than 90% of the dumbbells in the gym. Now, she had I don't know if she had like a dead body in there. I don't know what she had in that thing because it was a heavy purse. Like I'm pretty good at judging weight. It was a good, maybe almost 30 pounds. So I was like, okay, what the hell do you have in this purse? But that and a few other things that I said, really convinced her, where I told her one time, I was like, hey, go pick up that chair over there. And then she picked it up and I was like, oh, wow, you gotten so jacked. Like, oh my God, like, look, everyone, look at her. She's huge. So yeah, it's just proving that. And then she went to the gym and then she really enjoyed it. And, I mean, it's just one of those things where just like so many other things, we're just taking that first step really and
Mm-hmm.
really just seeing that
Oh,
like,
yes.
hey, it's not as bad, or you're not going to get super huge. Now granted, I have had those genetic freaks on. I've had two of them where they're those one percenters, those sons of bitches, where they walk into the gym and they train, like they could train, once a week and they still look absolutely jacked and shredded, where you're just,
Yeah.
and one of them I called out and I was like, okay, there's no way that's real. And then they showed me a photo because they had a photo right next to them of when they were like 10 years old. And I was like, okay, that person had like an 8-pack when they were like 10. And I was like, this is BS. Like this is, I'm done. But yeah, so I do have to make that asterisk because there are, those very, very lucky people that are like that. But the vast, vast, vast majority of people, it's not going to happen. But one of the things that I also like to bring up along with that topic, because I feel that it impacts women so much more than it does men positively, is the confidence boost that you get from working out. Because let's face it, I mean, there's some guys that walk into the gym and they could be 300 pounds and they act like they own the place. And that's just, give me that confidence, first of all. But that's a lot more, I think I found that a lot more in men than women. But with women, just that confidence boost of knowing that you can accomplish something and you can really make that positive change to your body. How has that confidence boost impacted you in every aspect of your life?
I was just going to say the best thing about that is that that confidence transfers over into everything else that you do. So I tend to work out before work, and that's just like that's how I clear my head. That's how I get focused. That's how I get pumped and ready for the night. And when I don't do that, I'm just off. So yeah, it transitions over to work. I just feel more confident and active and just more. I can't think of the word for it.
Just I'd say just more, you're just way more, positive, I'd say, and more just willing to adapt to things. I mean, even with me, I had my own confidence boost where I can tell, like the days where I'm able to get a workout in before I go to work, those are the best days. I mean, now granted, I used to have a job where I used to basically get a workout in as my work too, so those days would be, excuse me, those days would be actually very, very interesting because, trying to get two workouts in, in a day. I mean, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not going to do my 2 a days, at the gym. So yeah,
I definitely understand that, especially like so I work in orthopedics, so 100% of our patients are fall risks. They've all got something broken. So all we're doing at work is running around and lifting people. I mean, work is a workout.
no, I'm at UPS, and luckily I've been promoted like over the last few months where I don't have to work. I don't really have to do much of the heavy lifting, but still every once in a while, like last night, if we get hit really hard at one of our sectors, I got to go in there and I got to lift these 118-pound packages or whatever. It's like, oh, but I just did back today. Like, please don't
I
don't make
know.
don't make. And we don't even have like stairs, so like we have like ladders. So like if you have to lift it up the ladder, you basically have to like tilt it over one side and then keep like tilting it up and up and
Oh,
up and
Jesus.
work the way up. So yeah, it was an interesting night last night, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's nice to have a job where you can get that exercise in, but it's like, but if you are trying to exercise just for your mental sake, like if I don't get my workout in for a week, like I'm a crabby person. I'm gonna be completely honest, where
Oh
stuff just
yeah.
feels off. So it's just that's just so important. But I also love to ask for people that are in the nursing field or the medical field, just being that you work with people that maybe just got dealt a rough hand where, either they fell or they, just had something bad happen to them. How much more motivation does that give to you, just seeing these people and just realizing that, like looking in the mirror and saying, hey, I'm a really healthy and fit person and I'm able to go into the gym and work out. How much more motivation does that give you, knowing that you work with people that
Yeah.
really
No,
don't have that
that's
opportunity?
That's one of the best things about my job, and that's one of the reasons I love it so much is that it is that constant reminder that I I may not be perfect, but I am definitely fortunate. And hey, I can bend over and tie my shoes without pain. Like it's, I love that it daily reminds me of that because it's easy to get caught up in your head and your own world and kind of start to let little things weigh you down. And then you go to work and you're like, well, I mean, at least both my legs aren't broken. And, I need three people to help me go to the bathroom.
Mhm. No, yeah, we had at one of my gyms, he was a former Marine he was in Iraq and he lost a leg and an arm both on his left side. And he would still come into the gym and, get his workouts in. And I just look at him and I'd be like, okay, what the hell do I have an excuse for? Like it's like
Yeah,
everyone always has
exactly.
that excuse where like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to go in. And then as soon as I go in there and I see him, like just killing it, and I'm just like, okay, I'm an idiot. Like, why am I making all
Yeah,
these
you're like,
excuses?
okay, get it
Yeah, I was
together.
like, okay, get it together. And I even told him that. I was like, you don't realize how many times you've inspired me, like when I come in here, just to be like, okay, if he's doing it, like what am I doing? So and for people like that, I always gotta say, let them know too, because they take inspiration for that as well. I mean, it's like if you're really inspired by someone and you feel comfortable talking to them or telling them that, let them know, because believe me, that makes their day as much as it makes your day, seeing them go out there and kill it and really get that inspiration. So, and that's awesome. And had you always wanted to be a nurse? Was that always something that you wanted to do, or was it something that as you got older, you just said, hey, that would be really cool to do?
No, it's absolutely not what I wanted to
Mhm,
do. My mom is a nurse, and I was like, nope, I'm never going to do what she does.
mhm.
But I traveled Europe for a while when I was in my 20s. And then over in the Pacific, I traveled for a bit. And when I turned 25, I finally decided I wanted to do something more meaningful because all along the way, I kind of worked in retail and banking and finance. And I thought numbers were my thing. And at the end of the day, it just sales are not my thing. I need to do something that makes me feel useful, that I have a purpose. I love that I go to work every day and I get to impact others' lives.
Yeah, and that's just honestly, if you can find a job where you can impact others' lives, because I know some people, they're fine with having those jobs that don't really impact too many people, where you're just doing your own thing. But me as well, like I gotta have a job where like I'm helping deliver packages to people and helping them get their stuff. So it's impacting people's, now not nearly as much as you and your job impact people's lives, but just to have that little feeling deep down that like little Timmy got his Christmas presents, because of me on time.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
yeah, it's just that's just so important to find that fulfillment in your life. But getting started at 25, what was the process like for you then to become a nurse when you decide like, hey, this is something that I really want to do?
Oh, it was not easy. So I'd been living all around Europe and whatnot, and then I finally moved back home. So just kind of getting readjusted to that. I started waiting tables. So I waited tables probably 5 nights a week, every single weekend. And then I taught at two different gyms. I taught Zumba classes, and then I went to school full time. And I paid for
Wow.
everything just myself until I didn't even do student loans until I started nursing school. So it was just that's what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to have this done by the time I'm 30, and I'm just, going to put my head down and grind.
Another benefit of working out, people, she doesn't look a day over 22. So that's what I always say. I mean, we've had people on here that are like 50 years old, and I was like, yeah, you don't even look like you're like 25. So yeah, again, everyone, if you want to delay the aging process, go to the gym and work out. I mean, I'm 24,
Yes.
and I look older than I am, but I could not preach that enough. I mean, that is one of the benefits too. And I have friends that are just finishing their last year of nursing school, and it is tough. I mean, I'm
It's
not gonna.
stressful.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
super stressful, and they talk
But
about.
even in nursing school, I would be like walking on the treadmill and reading my notes.
Mhm, yeah.
Like exercise is just good for the brain.
Mhm. Now I have a few other people that are also getting their doctors, they're trying to become doctors, where you can't even have a job because they claim that like, yeah,
Hmm.
that'd be too. I was like, okay, first of all, that's a benefit, but if it's a really hard classwork, then I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll take a job. So yeah, yeah. There's so many issues to deal with that. But what makes the difference between being a regular nurse and a night nurse? Because when a lot of people think about night nurses, they might have a different idea as to what really it is.
Right. So initially, like when you first start out as a new grad, night shifts are pretty much all that's available. I will say that. Um, but what a lot of people don't know, so you tend to make like a little bit more on night shift, like a couple dollars an hour. But that, if you look at your paycheck, is hazard pay because people that work nights tend to carry higher cortisol levels. So they carry that weight in their abdomen. And that's of course when they tend to put on weight. It also messes up with your circadian rhythm as far as sleep goes. So working nights is a little bit harder because it does interfere with even just like your basic biological functions.
Yes, I mean, trust me when I say I used to, especially during our peak week that we have, where I'd be getting home like at 4 a.m. and you're just like, yeah, we were talking about this before, where it's like it's so hard to go to sleep when the sun's just coming up, or it just screws up your body, and yeah, you are finding out that it really is just such a hard adjustment. But I'm not trying to compete in bodybuilding shows. You are. So how are you able to maintain that look when basically, yeah, you are not on the regular sleep cycle of the average person? Because I always say I had the number one sleep specialist on the planet come on and talk about, the importance of sleep and what it does for the body. And first of all, he was calling us all the way from the UK, and he had one of those British accents where you just felt smarter just by talking to him. Like I was like, I
Yes.
gained 10 IQ points because he called us all the way from Oxford. And he just had one of those accents where I even told him, I was like, you're going to talk the entire time because it's like a workout for my brain, just like listening to him. But we were talking about the importance of sleep and, how important it is to, keep that circadian rhythm down to as close as it can be naturally, because it really helps with your cortisol levels and it helps with everything else. What are some tips and tricks that you like to do in order to make it so that you aren't, gaining weight, or you aren't getting super stressed out by the fact that your sleep schedule is different?
So as far as that goes, when you're tired, it's just science. When you're tired, your body craves those sugar, salty, crunchy foods. So me getting my diet down was first and foremost the hardest thing ever. I started like tracking my macros and stuff, and I start over about like midnight or one, depending when I get to eat. So that's how I do like my day. So, and then I'll sleep from like, I don't know, 9:30 to 2:30 during the day. And then it doesn't matter when I wake up, like my routine is I always eat breakfast and then I go to the gym. So it's, 3:30 in the afternoon, but that's when I'm eating my breakfast and that's when I'm going to work out.
So you only sleep 5 hours a night?
Between shifts, yeah.
Wow. I
And
don't.
then I'll make up for it usually on the weekends, but
Well, yeah, that's what I like to try to do too. Because yeah, believe me, on some weekends I wake up and it's like 2 o'clock and I'm like, shit. Like I
yes.
slept through almost like the whole day. Yeah, where like I'll go to bed at like midnight and then I'll wake up, and because I work Friday night, so I don't really go out with anyone that around that time. But Saturday nights are the party nights. But yeah, I'll wake up and it's like 2 o'clock and I was like, damn, did I sleep like 14 hours? Yeah, it's really really something. But how are you able to function after 5 hours? Because be honest, if I went one day with 5 hours, I I'm gonna be honest, everyone, children, close your ears. I'm a cranky bitch, basically. If I get 5 hours of sleep, like it's just not for me. Do you just basically just load up on stimulants?
I do drink like one bang a day typically. No, but it's what I want to do. It's what makes me feel good. And when you start to feel good, then it's addicting. I had a patient tell me one time, they're like, if it causes you to lose sleep or causes you to stop watching TV, then you found your passion. Like that's something that you want to do regardless of how tired you are. And it is. It's like I'd rather do that and be a little tired and get my workout in than sleep more because I know if I sleep more, I'm not going to feel better. I'm going to feel terrible that entire shift because I'm going to be dragging.
Now, that's this for me, because I can tell you all the times that I've got 4 hours of sleep to get ready to do a podcast. But unfortunately, if anyone at my job is listening to this, that is not the thing that I'm really willing to do that. So, I got my priorities a little bit mixed up. So yeah, that can be another reason why. Yeah, like if I had a job where I was just like, oh my God, like every day is a blessing and I get to wake up and, do what I absolutely love, then yeah, I can totally see
And
that being the thing.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's not reality.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'll meet one of those people, and you're like, okay, what kind of drugs are you on that you feel like that like every day? Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. So,
I'm not saying that each day doesn't get a little harder
oh yeah,
sometimes, but
oh yeah. But as long as like overall you're looking at it and you're like, okay, yeah, that's unbelievable. Now that we were talking about stimulants, so I have a funny stimulant story that I have not told on this podcast yet that I do need. It's a quick little story. So
okay.
I knew that I was going to have to work a double shift. So that was about a 16-hour shift. So I was starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that means I was getting out. I think it was like at 8 a.m. then the next day when I was getting out. So I thought it would be funny, or, it would help me at least if I went to a Super America right across the street, got 2 Monster energy drinks, got 2 5-hour energies, and got
Oh my gosh.
another energy drink. I forgot what it was. It might have been like a Jolt or something like that. And I posted a Snapchat of it because I was like, oh my God, like getting ready for my double shift. So what I did was I chugged half of a Monster and then I poured the 5-hour energy into the Monster drink and then shook it
Oh
up.
my.
And then I had one of my friends who was a medical student snapped at me. He's like, "Don't do it, Ryan. You're like your heart's gonna like explode." And I was like,
Yeah.
I'd already drank it all by then. By the time I got that, so it was a little too late. So then about 4 hours into the shift, I was like, "Oh my god, my heart just feels a little, feel like I was just drenched in sweat, and I was like, okay,
Oh
what?
my
I was
gosh.
like, okay, what's going on here? Like, feel a little funny. So then let's just say I was in the bathroom for about a good half an hour, and I lost about 15 pounds. I can guarantee I probably lost about 15 pounds. Walking between when I walked in, between when I walked out. That's the most I'm going to go into that. But yeah, that was one of those nights where I was like, okay, yeah, definitely don't. There's a limit for stimulants where it gets to a point where you don't want to just be like so jacked up where you literally just can't function because you're just so. Yeah, that night, yeah. Well, actually, honestly, I think just getting that much sweat and getting that drenched, I slept like a baby as soon as I got home because I think that like wore my entire body down. Where I was like, I literally like driving home. I was driving just like being normal or whatever, and then I looked down at my speed and I was going 105 on a 70 because my
Oh
feet were
my
so
god.
sore that I didn't realize like how hard I was pressing on the driving on the steering wheel. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And like people were like just going like getting ready to go for work, and I was like, okay, thank God there wasn't a cop. It was like only like a minute stretch. I was like, thank God there wasn't a cop being like, holy shit, this guy's going like 105 on like a 7. So yeah, I slowed up after that. But again, yeah, you guys, if you're taking stimulants, make sure that you know what they are and make sure that you take the proper amount so you're not just getting absolutely jacked up on it. But now going into your competing, because I always like to say, people don't realize, the general public, that just to be able to get into shape to go on a prep takes so much hard work and dedication. But going on a prep, that is notching things up to an extreme level when it comes to your diet, your nutrition. I mean, so many people struggle with that because you have to be just so precise, like you're talking about, with finding healthy foods, where just cutting it off the proper amount, prepping your meals. I mean, it can be such a hard thing. What was that experience like for you the first time making that adjustment and getting into that lifestyle?
Oh man, the first time it was very challenging, because your trainer gives you this diet, this meal plan, and you're like, I don't like any of those foods. So, but I eat more things now than I used to. So, like, I would never eat ground turkey or almond butter, and those are two things I absolutely love now. I just had to find a way to enjoy them. Like ground turkey, taco seasoning all day, game changer. And then almond butter, like there's vanilla, there's chocolate, there's so many different kinds, and you just find the brand that you like, and then you really enjoy it. Now there's some things that I still don't eat, as far as like avocado and fish, which is a big no-no. A lot of competitors, fish is basically all they're eating the last month before a show. But I had to like, I can't eat something just because you told me to. Like, I still have to enjoy the food that I eat. So that's why I started counting my macros, and that's how I was able to do it. But I definitely had those moments where, don't get me wrong, when they took out yogurt out of my diet, I definitely had a meltdown and cried
Yep.
because I was just so hungry at that point, and I was just given 110% and tired from work and training. And my coach was like, "It's gonna be okay, Liz." It's funny to laugh about now, but I definitely
Yeah.
had a moment where I cried over yogurt.
No, and that's completely understandable because people just don't realize what that's like to just go through those diets, just that extended amount of time, and what you're
Yes.
really doing to the body. I mean, and you having a job where you work nights as well, and just the cardio that you have to do, and just all these things that just they
And patients
compound.
always bringing you cookies and candy, and I'll never forget, it was around Halloween, and this patient always had candy in his room and always asked me to open it for him because he didn't have, like, the dexterity to do it. That was torture.
At least he wasn't like feed it to me or something like that. That would be even worse. Where you're just like, oh nope, I gotta
No,
put,
but
yeah, that, yeah.
you literally get to the point where I could walk into the nutrition room or just past it, and I could smell gluten in the air. Like, it's that bad.
Sweet, sweet gluten. Yeah, yeah. And that's why I love to have these guests on, because people just don't realize the mental sacrifice, that not just the physical sacrifice. I always say the mental sacrifice is way worse because you know what you're doing to your body and you still
Yeah.
do it anyway. And that's just for the
But
dedication's
especially
sake.
when you're busy, like, that's why all the more reason you have to be prepared,
Hmm.
because otherwise it's super easy to grab whatever treats that so and so has brought in, or, whatever is quick. But I have to have my meals ready. I may only get in a couple bites at a time, answer some call lights, get another couple bites in, but I've got to have it ready to go.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I love to talk about, because as you can tell, I'm one of the palest people you'll ever meet in your entire life, being from the upper Midwest. And, it's just, if it's sunny out, I'll either get burnt to a crisp or I'll get a farmer's tan, where, let's be honest, that's not a real tan. But one of the benefits of bodybuilding is that you can put a tan on and you can see what you look like with a severe tan. And I always like to say, I love to hear the guests because they talk about, like how you see muscles that you never even knew that you had. Everything really seems to pop out. What is that experience like for you when you get to put that tan on and really just see all of your hard work, even in a better light, because everything really does seem to look better?
Man, it's a big confidence booster, especially if the tan people know what they're doing. They accent, the lines and cuts of your body to make you look even that more phenomenal. Like the cuts are there, but they just accentuate them.
Yeah,
It's
it's
amazing.
well, I always say the one negative about that though, there's one negative is that you do have to basically become a statue though for the however amount of time you have it
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Can't sit on anything, can't stand next to anything. Yeah.
Dude, you should see the sheets after, like,
Yep.
after you sleep that night because you can't shower either. So, like, it looks like a crime scene in your bed. So take black sheets.
Mhm.
That tan gets everywhere.
I always say that adds on even more where you look at these comparisons and you're like, God, what they go through. It's just so incredible. But now another question that this is the number one thing that I would have never guessed if you would have given me an unlimited amount of guesses for what the hardest thing is for these competitors. I would have never guessed it. And it's one thing that as I've progressed in this podcast, I've really learned and, really like to preach. But yeah, one of the things that really, really mess with me that I think the general public doesn't think is that hard is the posing aspect. I always say so many people look at that and they're just like, oh, it's easy. They just go up and they just, do their little posing and they just no people, it is not. For so many of these competitors, posing is the hardest thing that they do. It's harder than their workouts, it's harder than their nutrition. I always like to say now it's kind of like being a perfect driver. You can be a great driver, you can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser, you can never be a perfect poser. It's always something that's ever evolving. What's your experience been like with posing, and how is the posing for the WBFF different from the NPC? Because I know that there are differences.
Yes, there are. So posing is huge. If you think that it's going to be easy and that you're just going to walk up there and hit it,
Good luck.
you're wrong.
Yep.
It takes so much practice to feel comfortable, let alone doing it in 5-inch heels and a bikini this big.
Hmm.
So practice, practice, practice. But also, so you practice like just walking around on your bare feet, and then all of a sudden you put heels on, and you're like, "Whoa, I forgot how to walk." And then it's like, okay, now stand, pivot, and hike that hip. Well, you're already on complete releve. So then try to hike it even higher. But you will never be as sore as you were when you were posing. It's funny because I just went to go watch a couple of friends at a show this last weekend, and it was their first show. And I messaged them the next day and I was like, "So, how sore are you today?" And they were like, "Oh my God, I am so sore in places I never even felt before." And I was like, "Yes, you are, because that is all posing." It is so challenging. And then, just smile and breathe and look like it's easy.
Oh, yeah, and that's one of those things where you look at that and you're like, "Okay, how do they even do that?" But yeah, that's one thing that I always like to bring up afterwards too, is that for a lot of these people, it's you get more of a workout in than your actual workouts, just going through a tough posing session because the body just really, really isn't used to it. But how is the WBFF posing different than the NPC posing? Because the NPC posing, they have their own regulating, and a lot of people are super familiar with the NPC posing because that's more of a type of bodybuilding that a lot more people are familiar with.
Yes. So that's kind of what I do like about the WBFF is that NPC is great and all, but their posing wise is just a little more like mandated and kind of, for lack of better terms, cookie cutter.
Yep.
And it's a little stiffer. But everybody's on stage at the same time. Like one person goes out to the middle at a time, does their thing, goes back. WBFF, we have our own stage time, and it's more of a fluid, natural. They like fluidity and movements, and they just want it to look sexy and natural and glamorous. And it does. It feels that way, and you feel so amazing when you get to do it. When you get the confidence to do it, you feel great.
Yeah, and it does take a while for that confidence to take effect
It
because
does.
because I always like to say if you were to poll the general public, you'd get at such a small singular percentage of people that would be willing to go up on stage and pose in front of people in a bikini. How long did it take
Mhm.
for you before you finally were able to just say like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna do it? Was it a trying process of really building up that confidence to be willing to go and show that off in front of people?
Yeah, in a bikini, yes. Being on stage is different. Like I've always done cheerleading and was the captain with that, and then teaching classes, you're always up front and center. But being on stage in heels, where you just feel like any second my ankle is going to snap and I'm going face down.
Hmm.
But the first show, I thought I was going to pass out just from fear. But the second show, you just don't look at the crowd. You just look up at the red lights and try to walk straight and hit your marks.
Yeah, and and I've had a few instances where I was on like a stage in front of people, and yeah, just feeling that excitement that you get a little bit before that too. But one of the benefits too that a lot of people don't realize, that when you walk up on stage, especially with the lighting, you don't see the crowd. You just see the
Mhm.
light. So that's another good thing. Because if I saw the crowd, I would be a little bit more, freaked out, or I would be a little bit more harder for me. But that is a good thing. But now, what is your favorite pose to do, and what is your least favorite pose to do?
Ooh, my favorite pose is probably my back pose, just because my back fills out real easy. Um, Least favorite is probably just dead front and center, because it's hard to make your body look curvaceous and nice when you're just shoulders forward.
Yeah.
You've got to have like some sort of hip popped and like this shoulder back. Like you still have to angle yourself some way to give your body that curve.
Mhm. No, yeah, I mean, just so much trial and error. And a lot of people, I always say, for those people that think that posing's easy, I always say, well, you know what? Here's the thing: get ready for a bodybuilding show, and then just walk up on there and have no posing at all, and then we'll see how you turn out. So
Hmm.
yeah, but without, and trust me, we've had guests that have come on where they're like, my first show, I waited until like 2 weeks out to go to a posing coach. And I was like, yeah,
Hmm.
tell me how that went. Yeah, I bet that went really, really well.
Terribly,
Now,
terribly.
okay, so now though, this is another one percenter story. I love telling my stories about the weird freaks that I have on the show. Where this lady never took a posing class, never did anything with that. She walked on stage and she won her show.
Wow, that's unheard of.
I
Unheard
didn't
of.
believe her. I didn't believe her, but then I saw she had like a video of it, and then she showed me, and I was like, okay, yeah, I guess, you could tell that like she was very untrained poser, but it was just, I
Mhm.
think she just looked so much better than everyone else. Because like I always say, you could look the best, and if you're a shitty poser, I mean that you're gonna lose. But if you're like
Yeah.
astronomically better looking than everyone else, then I think they kind of just give you the benefit of the doubt, where they're just like, okay, that person, it looks so much more in shape than that other person.
Yes,
Where
that's true.
where yeah. So I think that honestly, if she's listening to it, that's my opinion. I think you just look so much better than it. But yeah. But now, one of the things that I love to also talk about is, because people don't realize, another big myth, I should say, actually, is that people don't realize that look that you put on stage, that is not a sustainable look. You're not going to be able to look like
Oh,
that
thank
365
you.
days out of
Yes,
the year.
not.
Well, yeah, so many people. I've had so many friends come up to me and be like, I'm shocked, because when you have these people on, I thought that they just be, just jacked and ripped and shredded like they are when they go on stage. But you have dieted it down to like an, let's be honest, it's an unhealthy body fat percentage and an unhealthy weight for a lot of people, where you're not going to be able to maintain that. I mean, it looks amazing, it just shows all of the hard work and dedication, but we've had people, even the next day they start to put on weight. It's just so hard for people to get
Yeah,
that around
and
their head.
a lot of people don't realize that you do like a water load and
Hmm.
depletion. A lot of people do that anyways. So, and again, it's just temporary.
Hmm.
I'm very mindful about what I put in my body, and I, want to do it safely and naturally.
Yeah.
But before the shows, I do like water load and do like the diuretic. So like you start to cut back like 7 days out, you're drinking 2 gallons a day, and then you just start to cut it in half to one, like a gallon and a half, a gallon. And then the day before the show, you're drinking like 36 ounces of water. And then the day of the show, you're not drinking any water. So, after you get on stage and you're judged and whatnot, it's fine. Go ham, drink some
Yeah.
wine. But
Hmm.
it's, you build up to that and then you show your hard work and then you can go back to drinking and eating.
Yeah. And was it a struggle for you at all, realizing the fact that, like, hey, I've worked my butt off for like this however many amount of months or how many amount of weeks, but eventually I am going to have to put on weight?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of bulking season right now, and it is more of a mental struggle than anything because you get used to seeing yourself so lean, cut, and trim, and then you just kind of forget what it's like to live in a natural body. So right now I'm up 12 pounds from my stage weight, which looking at me, people are like, "Well, where did you put it?" I'm like, "Okay." I was like, I've put on a lot of measurement wise, like in my hamstrings and quads and whatnot, but it's a mental struggle.
Yep. No, yeah, I just can't imagine what that must be like, and it just takes so much more of the mental strength, which I think is really what really distinguishes bodybuilders from the general public, is just that mental strength that you need to have,
Mhm.
first of all, to get down into that type of shape, and then to just accept it, because we've had so many people where they get depressed or they get anxious just realizing that, and it's just I wish anyone the best of luck when it comes to that. But now we go to a fun question: what is your go-to post show meal?
Oh, pizza. Pizza and ice cream. I love pizza.
Any specific pizza place that you like?
No, not particularly.
Mhm.
But I mean, pizza of all kinds.
Yeah.
Breakfast pizza, dessert pizza, like I want it all.
Breakfast pizza. I've never heard of that. What's breakfast pizza?
Seriously?
Never heard of it.
You should look it up.
I'll look it up, everyone, and I'll get back to you on that because it sounds like now if we're talking about like pizza that has like pancakes and eggs and stuff in it, then sign me up for it. But yeah, no, I'll give it a look see and I'll see what that is. But yeah, breakfast
There's
pizza.
I
Writing
know
that
it
down right
sounds
now.
weird, but there's a local you ask your friend that lives out here,
Yeah,
ask him about Casey's Pizza.
Casey's
It's a
Pizza.
gas station that they
Casey's
make it
Pizza.
fresh. I know that sounds crazy, but ask him about Casey's Pizza.
Oh yeah, I know Casey's because I have family that also lives in Nebraska, so we go down there a lot, and there's a few Casey's in Nebraska, but I'll definitely. So next time I'm down there, I will look into that, and I'll ask him
Yeah,
about it too, because yeah, that is.
you
So
will.
again, you guys, breakfast pizza. Everyone, go and look up breakfast pizza. But now, two of the questions that I love to ask all of our health and fitness guests that we have on the podcast. For the first one, just going to the gym and getting in shape. There's so many positive things that come with it, but one of the negative things are you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're gonna get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next few months before I move out, and I think it's 2 months from now, yeah, that I move out. And every time they come in with groceries, I basically, have to lift the car into the driveway and then carry in all the groceries. Has that been a similar experience with you, where people take one look at you, especially when you're in prep, or even the way that you look now, and they just assume that you could do favors for them?
It's kind of the opposite actually because, with bodybuilding, as it's funny, the more I lift, the tinier I get,
Hmm.
but you can't tell under my scrubs how muscular I am.
Yeah.
So I'll come in to like help, like everybody always asks me to come help, like boost their patients or reposition them or something. And I'll walk in there and the patient looks at me and they're like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, all right, hold your comments for the end." I was like, "We're mightier than we look."
Well, and I always gotta say, for me, that's a double edged sword because being 6'3", I could wear like what I'm wearing right now, and people would still be like, "Oh, tall guy, come help me move this
Yep.
stuff." So it has been a double-edged sword for me as well. And then also, like you also basically you become like a human art exhibit for when you're not wearing like sweaters and stuff like that, where people just all of a sudden they just stare at you and they're just like, "Oh, really? That's interesting," because not the average person really isn't that in shape. What has that experience been like with you? Have you gotten used to the fact that you might get like stares or whatnot if you go out in public and you're not, covered up?
You know what? It's kind of exhilarating, almost sometimes embarrassing, but I love it. It's not like everybody comes up to you every single day and they're
Yeah.
like, "Man, you're in great shape. Congrats." But when they do, I don't know, every other week or so, somebody will be like, "Hey, your arms are really nice." When do you ever hear that as a female? Never.
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable.
I was gonna say one of the highlights for me was when I was at a grocery store and I had like these. I was wearing like a cutoff shirt like up to here, so you could see stuff. And the old lady came up to me, he's like, "I need your muscly arms to come and help me load this thing into my cart." And I was like, "Old lady, you just made my day," or whatever. Like that's like I was like, "Of course I'll help you." Yeah. So
I was gonna say, old people who give you compliments
yeah.
are the best
Oh
compliments
yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
I had like this 80-year-old man come up to me in the gym one day, and he's there every day that I am. And he said, "Hi, is your first name Wonder, last name Woman?" I just kind of stopped and laughed. And it was the one
Classic.
day where I was feeling like real depleted, and
Mhm.
I just laughed and I said, "No, but I really appreciate that." And
Yeah.
he's like, "I appreciate your work ethic. I see you in here hitting it hard every single day." He's like, "I just want to commend you." And I was like, "Thank you so much. That absolutely made my day."
Absolutely, and that's like kind of like what I said too. It's like these people, if you want to tell them, how much they really mean, it's like tell them because it means just as much to them as it does to you.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to put an asterisk. Know the proper times when they come up and talk to them. I had times where like I'm doing like bench or I'm
Yeah.
mid set and people come up and talk to me, and it's just like, okay, hold it 15 seconds, and then you can like compliment, or then you can ask me a question, and I'm more than willing. So yeah, that's one thing where yeah, just find that out. But now my favorite question to ask, and again, this is a multi-million-dollar idea. It's probably the audience favorite question as well. When it comes to fit women, I always say fit guys have their own problems when it comes to this, but clothing options. Your clothing
Oh my
options can be very limited. See, we get that reaction every single time. And the moment you said, so the moment I asked what body part really took off for you, and you said shoulders, I said, oh boy, because shoulders are one thing where I always say like dresses are not going to be your best friend. Then if you have really big, large shoulders, jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time. Where if you have a big lower body and a small waist, jeans are not built for that. What have been some ways that you have found that you're able to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
Well, first of all, I'm still looking for a clothing line that will
Mm-hmm.
fit people who work out.
Mhm.
But I tend to live in my leggings and scrubs, just because it fits. But if I'm going to go out or something, then it's typically just, well, I'll just wear some sort of like midriff cutoff or wrap a belt around it because otherwise that's the only way it's going to fit.
Yep, yeah, that's one thing that we and again, anyone out there, if you have a clothing line or if you're thinking about anything. Now, I had two fashion people come on, and they both started their own, like fashion companies. And I said, like, hey, we have a lot of bodybuilders, we have a lot of fit people on here. Definitely make a clothing line for them. They haven't gotten back to me yet. So again, if you're listening to this, get on it because there's so many people that are willing to, spend
Yes.
money for that. So again, everyone get on that. And yeah, that's one thing that I wish there would be more of. But now we go to our audience favorite, my personal favorite part of the podcast, a little questionnaire where we're going to ask Elizabeth here about a dozen or so health and fitness-esque questions, sort of more of like a getting to know her and see how her answers stack up to everyone else that we've had on the show. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Ooh. Man, you're really gonna put me on the spot here. I'm kind of in a Mike Stud phase right
Mike
now.
Stud. Oh.
So, so things I like and Glass Hearts, like those are on my playlist right now.
Hey, that's better than me because for me, like I gotta have my old school '80s cheesy music where it's just the cheesiest. Like we're talking like White Snake, Journey, just stuff like that, and the cheesier the better for me. But like I have a problem, so I have a gym at home, which is nice, where it's basically enough to maintain a pump. Like it's just a couple of barbells, it's a couple of workout machines, like a little a treadmill. That's about it. But I work out there, about 75% of the time. But when I do go to the gym, I'm one of those guys where I gotta wait for the beat to drop. So if I'm doing like a lat pull down, I'll be like this sometimes for like 30 seconds, and I've had people come up to me and be like, "Hey, dude, are you all right? Did you like pull out your back or something like that?" And I'm like, "Nope, just waiting for the beat to drop." So I am known throughout my gym as the guy that waits for the beat drop, and I've had literally people come up to me like, "Yeah, people told me like not to say anything to you because like I thought that you were struggling like doing squats one time, but then you just like repped them out just perfectly." And I was like, "Yeah, I was waiting for the beat to drop. That's what it is." But yeah, so that is
Yes,
one thing that
yes.
I that I
Nope, I
that I
do
have to
that
work on.
too.
Yep. Well, it does help with like your adrenaline and everything, and it really helps,
Does.
at max out. So I couldn't preach that more. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
I definitely love Lauren Simpson.
Lauren Simpson.
She
Yep.
was WBFF's bikini pro this
Mhm.
last summer, and I just think she is beautiful inside and out. She's gone through the fluctuation of being like, being way too skinny, and then like through the bulking phase, and then I just like her. I don't know, her consistency, what she puts out there. I would just love to work out with her.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those where I look at her and I've invited her to come on. I have not heard back from her. So Lauren, if you listen to this, we want you on the podcast. Get back to me. But but no, yeah, for me, I'd probably just be like an Arnold just because it's Arnold. And the fact that I would love to hear him yell at me in his Austrian accent, that would probably make my life. Just that would just be hilarious. But now out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Ooh, train one? Man, I don't know. Just aesthetic wise, I'd love to train like Ryan Reynolds because I think he would be funny and easy to chat with, and then he would be crazy enough to try anything that you told him to do. You'd be like, okay, just do this ball wall and like run over there, do 50 push-ups, and he'd be like, okay.
I look at a guy like him and I just hate it because he is literally one of those like near perfect people where like he is super
Yeah.
funny, but it's because normally like those people that look that good, they're not the brightest people or they're not the funniest people, but like he has it all and he has the body too where I just look at him and I'm just like he's just
I
making it
hate
bad
you. I
for
just
everyone.
want to
Yeah,
be you.
I just hate you. I would want to be for one day just to live one day in Ryan Reynolds' shoes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, he would be a good one too. I always say for me like a Kevin Hart or something like that. But the problem with that is
Oh, I love Kevin
the
Hart.
problem with
Yes,
that though
that
would
would
be
be
that I
so
would not be
fun.
able. I would get the best ab workout of all time. I would not get any other
Uh-huh.
workout because we would just laugh the
Him
entire time.
or Dane Cook.
Dane
I
Cook,
would
yeah.
do one of those two. Yeah.
Oh my God, Dane Cook. Every 12-year-old boy's favorite comedian, Dane Cook. Yeah, that's. I remember. No, I was at that age where when he was really really famous, I was at like the 12-year-old age. So like I was, I witnessed that where he was selling out venues where now everyone always give crap about Dane Cook, but I was like, hey, I knew the Dane Cook that people actually when Dane Cook people actually liked him before everyone started hating on him like they do now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an old reference that makes me feel young again. A Dane Cook reference. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that would be.
I'm 10 years your senior.
10 years, yeah, no, I know. I always exaggerate that with my friends. I was like, oh my God, feeling so young. Yeah. But yeah, so now moving on to the questionnaire. What is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Ooh, probably chicken or turkey or almond milk.
Yep, those are chicken and turkey are definitely two of our most popular answers. For me, the most shocking answer though is mustard. I would have never guessed mustard, but there's so many bodybuilders that do that because it's zero
There
calories,
are.
zero in fat,
Yes,
where you just
yes.
douse your stuff in it. And I always say to that, you might want to reevaluate your life if you're having to, put mustard on everything. But whatever they do to get them to look like that. But now, out of all your followers on Instagram, what would you say would be one thing that they would be surprised to find out about you if they met you in person?
Be surprised to find out about me? I guess a lot of people don't know that I play the violin.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, that's
Uh,
definitely. Yeah, that's one thing. I would have never guessed that in a million years that she played the violin. Yeah, so yeah,
Yep, I've
we
played since I
learn
was 8 years old.
we learn something new every day here on this podcast. But now, if someone were to come up to you and say, Elizabeth, we made the decision where you can change one thing about the bodybuilding industry and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would like to see changed?
One thing changed. Mm, I guess I just don't I like the whole natural aspect. I wish there wasn't so much, and I love WBFF, but it's not regulated. So if
Yep.
you wanted to do other things, then you can do that.
If you
But I
wanted to
wish that
drink
that was
protein shakes, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Just I mean, because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Your life isn't worth, that extra pump.
Well, and I always say, do whatever you want. People like I believe me, I'm not someone to judge anyone, but like if you look at some of these, especially females, what that stuff does to the body. I mean, males they have a hard enough time as it, but some of these females that you look at later on in life, and you just look at them and you're like, okay, yeah, that should be a PSA for like not doing that type of stuff. Where, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Anyone, if you're more interested in that, go and look it up. But yeah, that's one thing too that I'd really like is if they have a little bit more regulation in there, so that yeah, you would. But again, more power to you if you decide to do it, but it's your life, do what you want, but don't come crying to me then if you see all these changes then afterwards. So, yeah, 100%. But now most people don't realize that for a lot of these competitors, winning your pro card is basically for a lot of them it's the highlight of their journey because it's the affirmation that all of that hard work that you've put into it has really really paid off. What was that experience like for you winning your pro card?
Um, Incredible. So leading up to my show was a hard journey. I initially was going to do one in September and I was going to do NPC. And then my coach was like, nope, you are too lean for that. So I changed it up and I was going to do this Oklahoma City show for WBFF. And 2 weeks prior to that show, it got canceled. And so I was like, I have been training since May. Like, I am ready to go. And I was like, I'm doing the next show that's in the nearest Midwest region. So there was one a month out in Houston. And I was like, all right, I'm going. I changed and it's a lot to change as far as like costume rentals, suit rentals, hotel, tan, makeup, hair, all these things. I just redirected that to Houston 30 days down the line. And then also, I chose to do it alone because it's hard to ask my coach to pick everything up and say, hey, come out to the show with me in 30 days. I want to compete.
Mhm.
Obviously, I can't ask that of him. So I went to that show alone, and being backstage is hard to do that by yourself because there's always something that you need like last minute. And so being with the girls at the WBFF was just so welcoming and warming because it's not like that at all backstage shows where it's like, hey, I need some rice cakes and some honey and almond butter. Some other places they might just be like, oh, sorry, out of luck.
Yeah.
But back there, they're like, "Oh, girl, I got you. You need some hairspray. You need a touch up here. Let me fix you." Like, it was a really incredible experience. So to go on that stage out there and get all that stuff done without having my coach there, it was challenging, but all that more rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what that feels like, and just to accomplish that. And I always say to everyone, find that thing in life that really brings you that much joy and that much happiness, and just stick with it. I mean, we're on this planet for such a short amount of time that it's almost a sin to not find that or to not at least go looking for that. But now going back to our questionnaire, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you'd like to give her?
18, so long ago. Okay. um, Man, don't let others' opinions affect your actions. That would be what I would tell her.
Yeah, that is a huge thing that I would also like to say as well. But now, if we were to talk to you a year from now, or a year from today, I should say, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding career? Where would you like to be at in your professional career? Where would you like to be at overall in your life if we were to talk to you a year from today?
A year from now, so I'm doing my pro debut in December in Atlantic City. So a year from now, I hope that I can say I won that show. Professionally wise, I still love being a charge nurse in orthopedics. I don't know about moving to day shift or not. That might be a thing that comes up. But as of now, it works for me.
Well, dear God, give this woman a day shift, okay? Make her bodybuilding a little bit easier. It's like, come on. I mean, it's like, do you realize? Well, I was like, do you realize probably how much easier that would make everything for you if you did get moved? So I'm gonna make a plea right here for everyone. Give this woman her damn day shift already. You see all these other nurses that probably just slack around their other time when they're not off. She's going to the gym and she's working her butt off. Just give her what she wants. Yeah, but yeah, I wish you nothing but the best in that endeavor, along with your bodybuilding endeavor. But now, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to?
I guess maybe just my coach, Grant Foster. He's taken me this far, and I hope to be champ for the world one day. So that's
I,
my
I
goal.
I've seen guys go and give her a follow on Instagram. I'll leave a link to all of her stuff down below. She has a chance, everyone. I mean, first of all, go and give her a follow, and that will just, you'll be embarrassed and you'll be inspired to get off the couch and stop eating all those Twinkies, and get in better shape. But the last question that I love to ask every health and fitness guest that I have on is, if you were to be walking down the street and some random person walked up to you and say, "Oh my God, you look amazing. I want to get into, better shape and I want to really adapt a more healthy and fit lifestyle." What would be the best piece of advice that you would give them just to get started?
Just to get started, I would say focus on your diets and then get a good support system because it's hard to do alone. Like you need that reassurance, you need that confidence boost. Like I still need it. Like that's why I check in with my coach every single week because I need that to keep me on track. So you need something to keep you accountable.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with her more on that. And again, you guys, Elizabeth, we cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast. I really, really appreciate having you come on and share your story,
I've really enjoyed it.
especially on her day off, everyone, where she's not having to be a night nurse. And honestly, I
Thanks
wish you
for having me.
nothing but the best in all of your endeavors in life. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.